Excuse me. Yeah. I know, always thinking of yourself. Right, excuse me. God, no pressure. My name is Ellen Cassidy, and I'm an enthusiastic, boundlessly grateful Al-Anon. It's Friday night! And the Al-Anon is speaking. I'm just saying. Yeah, how do you do that? Okay. This is, my husband is here with me, which is, I've thought about it 40 times today. I've thought, okay, I'm here. My husband is here with me. I'm here with you. I'm here with the beach. And I get to say, I use the big book. What else is there? You know, it's like free world. I've landed in free world. This is our third AA Al-Anon family conference in the last 3 weeks. Oh, yeah, eat your heart out. We had our grandchildren, our 4 youngest grandchildren, at the first two with us. This time it's just us. The first conference we went to 3 weeks ago was the Fellowship of the Spirit conference in Colorado. Yo mama, right? And I heard about it, but I had never been to a Fellowship of the Spirit conference before. And the first meeting I walked into was an Al-Anon meeting, and there must have been 100 people in the room. That was kind of scary already, because they don't normally let that many of us get together at a time. I suspect that's why we don't. And they had literature. They had this handout that they were going to talk about at the meeting, and it was front and back lines out of the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I thought, whoa. I went out and I said, is this the Al-Anon meeting? Yeah, this is the Al-Anon meeting. This is a whole new world. My first Al-Anon meeting was November 3rd in 1981. I live in a part of the country where Al-Anons, a good many Al-Anons, use the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, because there's a lot of old Al-Anon there. But I've never been to 2 conferences in 3 weeks where we've been not only allowed but encouraged to use the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm so grateful that the alcoholics didn't say, sorry, this is our book, you can't use it. We would have said it if it had been our book. No, maybe not. I've thought about this weekend, because it was a markedly different conference 3 weeks ago than what I'm used to. This is markedly different than what I'm used to. There is a depth, there is a texture, there is a wealth of recovery offered to Al-Anons who can use the big book. If you want to know about the disease of alcoholism, who better to ask than an alcoholic? And Bill did it as well as anyone will ever do it in that book. Now, if you want to know about the family disease, don't read the chapter to the wives. No, we would encourage you to go to How Al-Anon Works for Families and Friends of Alcoholics. Yeah, because it was written by Al-Anons, and as we all know, our man Bill, I love him. I just love him. He can pass himself off as an Al-Anon, whatever, whatever. Tiny bit self-serving, but that girlfriend. Excuse me, I'm taking care of someone else. Anyway. I heard a gal at that conference 3 weeks ago say, she said, I have ADD, or as my dad says, ADOS, attention deficit. Oh, shiny. I'm a lot like that. Normally I wait until I sneak it kind of into my story later on about why I'm a big book Al-Anon, but I'm telling you up front, okay? And I never apologize for it. I'm so grateful to have landed in a place where Al-Anons use the big book. My sponsor, Marcy White, came into the program in 1954 in West Texas. And there was no Al-Anon in West Texas in 1954. She went to open meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous with her husband, and I am so grateful for open meetings of Alcoholics Anonymous. And she fell in love with what she found in those meetings, and she wanted it, and she wasn't afraid to ask. And it was alcoholic women who took her under their wing and took her through the steps through the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. And that's what she fed to us, was the steps. You know, we have a tradition that says that we are, it's the one that says we have but one purpose, and that's to help families of alcoholics. And the first thing it says we have to do is we have to work the steps of AA ourselves. Hello? Where are the directions? Oh, I think I know. Everything we've written is secondhand information. You know, the primary information is in the Alcoholics Anonymous literature, and that gives me permission to use the big book as far as I'm concerned, if I need any. So, and I'm not sure I do here. Anyway, I've been treated like I've been carried around on pillows since I got here between Leona and Larry and Helen and the girls. I mean, we've just been treated, I can't tell you how nicely. It's just been lovely, and I appreciate it. I really do. So, okay, here we are. Let's just do it. Introduce myself as an Al-Anon. I want to explain that to you. It's not good news. Explaining things is how I got to Al-Anon. I always thought if I could get you to listen long enough, then you'd understand. I'd find the right word on the right day, and you'd go, oh, I got it. Let's do it your way. I'm still waiting. But you know, God has taken those things that look like deficits to me, like character defects, and has found a use for them. And this is, he said, honey, you have worked that explaining muscle up. And I am now going to send you around to little pockets of people all over the place, and you can just explain your heart out. Today is your day in the barrel, you lucky, lucky people. Al-Anon is not what I wanted to be when I grew up. I didn't know there was such a thing as Al-Anon to be. I know what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I think if you can want it from before you were born, I wanted it from before I was born. I wanted to be somebody's wife and somebody's mother. And I was going to be the best mother those children ever had, and I was going to be the best wife that husband ever had. And I'd been in Al-Anon a couple of years before I realized I never wanted to be me. I never wanted to be the best mother I could be, the best wife I could be. I needed to be the best in somebody else's eyes. It's an unattainable goal, and it's very frustrating for everyone involved. What I ended up being was somebody's judge and somebody's juror and somebody's executioner. None of us were happy. When I got to Al-Anon, I didn't want to be here. But I never wanted to be here. I always wanted to be someplace else with somebody else doing something else, because I was always pretty sure it would be better there. It's just been recently I have figured out there's no there. But if you get there, you're just here all over again. And you've brought all the stuff you had back there right up to here. There's no there. It's I can't tell you how sad that makes me, but anyway. I didn't want to be here. I decided after I'd been in here a little while that really what I wanted to be was alcoholic. Well, had a couple of reasons for that. Number one, it was very obvious to me that alcoholic women had more fun than we did. And number two, apparently my husband preferred them. No, just reporting. I am just reporting. That's all. Anybody could tell you that. It's not that husband. Don't give him the bad looks. I will number them for you so you will know. We're nowhere near him yet. I had to kiss a lot of frogs to get to that prince, I'll tell you. So, but I didn't want to drink to be alcoholic. I'd been to enough open AA meetings. I'd heard about the line, you know. And some people drank over the line. One guy said he thought the line was right outside his mother's womb. He was born over the line. I grew up in a family of drinkers. I grew up in a family of heavy drinkers. I grew up in a family that acted as if there was something the matter with people who didn't drink. You should stay away from them, Ellen. They're fanatics. Some of them are even Baptists. I know today they didn't say that, but I have selective hearing. I tend to hear what it is I think you're going to say, which has nothing to do with what you said, actually. And I was afraid, having been to enough open AA meetings to hear about the line. I knew I wasn't to the line yet, but I was afraid if I let go of control. See, I think if an Al-Anon had written the big book, we would have said lack of control. That was our dilemma. And I'm not sure it isn't the same thing. It's just semantics, I was afraid that if I drank all I had to drink to become alcoholic, that I might cross that line, and chances were good then that I wouldn't come back. And I didn't like those odds. And besides, I needed to be alcoholic like that afternoon. So I didn't have time. So the solution I came up with for that is the same solution I always come up with in my diseasiness. Now, there's a difference between being uncomfortable and being diseasy. When I am diseasy, I need people, places, and things to get where I think they ought to be and stay there. And then I'll be okay, and I'll be at ease, and I can breathe again. We're the only group, I bet you don't have to do it in AA, but in Al-Anon, you'd be surprised how many times somebody will have to say, honey, breathe. We don't seem to be able to remember to breathe on our own. It's kind of scary. Okay. I told a story now, and I don't know where I've gone. Come back, Ellen. So, really, if you're uncomfortable, I heard a while back that you don't grow in your comfort zone. We grow in our uncomfortable zones. So being uncomfortable is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. The difficulty is finding peace with being uncomfortable. What I know today is if I'm uncomfortable, all I need is to be comforted. And that's why I have you. That's why I continue to build a relationship with the God of my understanding, so I can be comforted. So in my diseasiness, all it needs to do is I just need to look alcoholic. Okay, you already know I love alcoholic women. Okay, I love them. I adore them. Right next to alcoholic men, I love alcoholic women. I did not come into Al-Anon surrendered. I came into Al-Anon looking for one more thing that might work. I don't know that many of us come into Al-Anon surrendered. If you don't know whether or not you've surrendered, you haven't. It really will leave little doubt in your mind when that happens. And surrender is not something that I've done. Surrender is something that's happened to me. When I'm totally out of every bit of idea I got, I get surrendered. And just because you've done it once, if you're still breathing, guess what? There's more. There's more. Yeah, life is just full of it. So my chance at surrender came at 3 years in the program. And I fell in the big, black, deep hole. And I did not have to explain that black hole to alcoholic women. They understood. One of them said to me, she said, honey, those Al-Anons mean well, but they don't have any idea. She said you need 448 through 452, which were some of the pages in the third edition of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous on acceptance, which they tried to hide from me in the fourth edition, I noticed. I found them. She said, you probably ought to read that for a month or until you don't need it anymore. That was 27 years ago. I still think there's lines stuck in there that just appeared. They didn't used to be in there. I don't know how they do that. Rewrite the book while you're sleeping. What's that? Every once in a while I have to get a new big book because I've highlighted so much of it and underlined so much and turned back corners that I tend to just look at that part. If I get a new book, it's really like a new book one more time. I just got one. I guess that's why I'm talking about it. Oh, stop. Okay. So I needed to look alcoholic. I needed to look like an alcoholic woman. I want you to know there's a look to alcoholic women in gorgeous North Dallas, which is where I'm from. I don't own any of those clothes. I had to borrow some. And so I did. And I came out that afternoon in my new alcoholic outfit. And I was sucked. I was in skin-tight jeans and stiletto heels. Yeah, baby. Well, I made a couple of discoveries in that little experiment. Number one, I don't like anything that controls me like those pants did. And number two, Al-Anons are doomed to sensible shoes. We really are built for speed and not for looks, you know. If you love an alcoholic, you have got to be ready to go in a heartbeat. Or you could lose him. Maybe kill yourself, but lose him. And, you know, the place I chose to do that little experiment was at the Crested Butte Mountain Conference in Crested Butte, Colorado, with 600 of my closest friends. And there was that week. Now, this, you got to realize, is like the mid-'80s. And there were 4 people there that week who had between them 125 years of Al-Anon, which was a lot of Al-Anon back in those days. Marcy White was there. Elsa Chamberlain was there. And 2 more gals from my area who are still alive, bless them. One of them told me at a workshop just a couple of years ago, she tottered over to me before the workshop started, and she said, I just want to tell you something. I've been here 40 years. I still don't get it. Made me feel so much better, you know. I'm not sure what she doesn't get, but I got to not only hear their stories, I got to sit in meetings with them. I got to visit with them one-on-one, but most of all, I got to watch their interaction with their families. And I finally knew what it was I wanted to be when I grow up. I want to be free. I want that freedom that's offered me in step 3, the freedom to be who it is God would have me be. And I left that conference so grateful that there was such a thing as Al-Anon, and somehow, some way, I had fallen into it. Now, when it came to Al-Anon, I didn't have very many opinions. I either had yours or the opposite of yours, depending on what I wanted you to do. Today, I have very strong opinions, which is neither good nor bad. It's different, and that's what I'm offered in Al-Anon, is a different way of life. One of the things that'll make the hair on my neck stand up is to have some new drunk walk in with his wife coming in behind him with the twitch, because we do tend to get here with the twitch. And somebody else say, look, there's John, the new alcoholic. And there's Betty, his little Al-Anon wife, twitching in behind him. And the only reason they're calling her Al-Anon is because she's married to him. She is not an Al-Anon. She's an alligator. You know, the world reeks of people who could use Al-Anon. Snappy little people. You meet them every day. It's hard not to tell them, too. You could use a meeting, hun, you know. We're not a program for people who need us. The statistics are for every alcoholic, there are 1 to 4 people profoundly affected. There are 10 to 42 people directly affected. I don't know what happens 5 to 9, but I'm pretty sure it's not good. Al-Anon ought to be 10 times bigger than AA. It is not a happening thing. I know it's hard to get into AA. I know. I've heard the stories. I've tried to shove a couple of them in the door myself. Actually, I got them in the door. I just couldn't make them stick, you know. But I think it's harder to come to Al-Anon. I think it's, I usually say a curse word here. I know you find that hard to believe. I'm an Al-Anon and everything, but I won't say it. It's darn near impossible to come and ask for help when there's nothing the matter with you. Al-Anons, you got it, right? Yeah, it's okay. There's too many alcoholics in this room. They won't laugh unless you laugh. They think we don't know. And sometimes the laughter draws people into Al-Anon, and sometimes it repels them. Because alcoholism isn't funny. Alcoholism is a deadly disease. It kills the people who have it, and it kills the people who love them. The people who use the insurance first in an alcoholic home are the non-alcoholics. We have an incredible, vast array of stress diseases. Now, if you hear people laughing about stuff this weekend that you don't think is funny, keep coming back. You can't laugh about something that hasn't been healed. But if it's been healed for one of us, it can be healed for all of us. Keep coming back. Al-Anon's not a program for people who want it. We had a lot of newcomers show up to my meeting. The deal is, though, they're not looking for recovery. They're looking for relief. They just want to feel better. And you come to a couple of meetings, you talk to some people, you read a little literature, and, after a while it doesn't hurt as bad as it does. And then you hear the Al-Anon death knell. They say, you know what, it's not that bad. Back out they go. Back out they go. We are often accused in Al-Anon of doing the Al-Anon waltz. We do 1, 2, 12, 1, 2, 12, 1, 2, 12. I know what the problem is. I've heard the answer. Let me tell you. All those other steps, just filler. Yeah, today somebody was reading that part in the AA 12 and 12 at step 6 where it says this is what separates the men from the boys, or the goats from the sheep, as I always think. This head, I shouldn't go in there alone. The place it happens for us is step 3, because we tell people if you do step 3, your life's going to change. And these newcomers go, oh, wait just a minute. Did you think I wanted, like my life to? Oh, no. My life is not that bad. We just need to fix him. We're like people in a lake of liquid manure up to about here. It's not very pleasant, but it's ours. And we've been here as it's been growing, and we have adjusted and readjusted and maladjusted, and it's getting pretty deep now. And this boat comes along, and the guy says, you know what, you don't have to live like that. And we go, oh, that's okay. And they say, come on, we can show you how. No, it's not that bad. I just want you to keep that guy over there from making waves. Yeah, you know what I don't like about that is the only thing he can kick up is my stuff, right? Don't like that part. I remember telling my sponsor one time, I said, okay, just once, can it be his fault? No, can't be. Al-Anon is really only a program for people who are willing to work at it, because that's what it requires. It requires ongoing effort, persistent effort. Not necessarily consistent, but persistent. The two words that have meant the most to me lately are persistence and momentum. Keep doing what you're doing. And when you need something else, start doing something else. Ask for help. Don't stop. Once you stop, it's really hard to get back in there and get going again. Keep going. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm an Al-Anon because I have a 12-step recovery program that I practice like my life depends on it. I'm convinced today of the fatal nature of my disease. I'm an Al-Anon because I have a committed meeting that I go to every week like a doctor's appointment. If you want to find me, you come Monday night at 6:15 to the Addison Al-Anon family group meeting, and that's where I'll be. And I walk in that meeting, they go, oh, Ellen, there you are. Sometimes they don't say it, but that's how it feels. And sometimes they have to say it with their eyes because I'm a little late, but I know they're saying it. And I know they say it because there have been times when it's so hard that I use my key to the club when there's not a meeting, and I go sit in there, and I can feel it in the room. It's in the walls, It's in the walls. I'm an Al-Anon because I have a sponsor who knows everything about me, and then some. I've never told her anything that surprised her. I think sometimes we should have a little checklist in Al-Anon that says, do you have a sponsor? Does she know she's your sponsor? We're so weird. People say, do you have a sponsor? Do you have a sponsor? You need a sponsor. Okay. Will you be my sponsor? Okay. Oh, good. I feel so much better. But I don't want to bother her. Let her be in charge of her botherer, okay? That's her business. Your business is taking care of yourself. Pick up the phone and call. Okay. I'm an Al-Anon, and I am so grateful there is such a thing as Al-Anon to be. When I was 17, Mama diagnosed me. Mama diagnosed me as boy crazy. Place Mama sent me to be safe was Lubbock, Texas. People have been to Lubbock, yes. There's a guy, yes, it baby, happiness. There's a guy told me one time he had to leave Lubbock because he got tired of lying under his car for shade. The very first Al-Anon meeting in the entire state of Texas was held in Lubbock. It's a dry area. Do you know about dry areas where they tell alcoholics they can't drink? I think that's so funny. Nothing will make them drink faster and tell them they can't. Well, I went to Lubbock. She sent me to go to school. I went looking for him. But I was always looking for him. I usually had a him. I don't like to be himless. But you can't be too sure that this is the best him. So I'm always on the lookout for a better him. It took me 6 months, but I found him. He was married to somebody else and had 2 kids and was 60 pounds overweight, but none of that seemed insurmountable to me. I personally have never liked the easy ones. You know, the ones who go, oh, you're so cute. I know. Get away from me. I want those ones you have to fight for. Those ones you have to earn. Those ones you have to make love you. We could do it again. You know what? We could. Such a rush. I don't know what the addiction is. I think it's adrenaline. Well, of course I got the man because I'm like the Mounties. I always do. A year later, we had shed the wife, the 2 kids, and the 60 pounds because I am a complete restorer when I redo them. And I had my prize. Oh, lucky, lucky me. We were married 6 months when he hit me the first time. He was drunk when he hit me. And he was drunk every time he hit me. And I didn't grow up in a family where adults hit each other. So the reaction I had to it wasn't anything anybody taught me. I thought it up all by myself in my fabulous little solution center here. And the very best thing I could think to do was double dog dare him to do it again. It looked like a power move to me at the moment. As it turns out, it didn't take any more insanity on his part to hit me the second time than it did the first time. And that's the way we lived for 9 more years because I'm a sticker. And I will make my bed and I will damn near die in it. I can't tell you when this happened. I know as a result of doing inventory after inventory, I know what happened. Every time he hit me and I believed what he said, which was, I deserved that. Every time he hit me and I believed what he said, which was, if I hadn't done what I did, he wouldn't have to do what he did. Every time he hit me and I got up the next morning and I looked in the mirror at a black eye or a split lip or a bloody nose and I said to myself, it's not that bad. I'll just stay in the house another day and another day and another day. A piece of me left, and then another piece, and then another piece, and then another piece. And 9 years later, there was nobody left in here who could stand up and say, you can't treat me like that. I'm God's precious child. But then this other guy came along. I know you're surprised. And he said, you don't have to live like that. Yeah, I'd heard that. He said, and I love you. Now the magic words have been added. When I came to Al-Anon, I had one feeling. I hurt. Everything hurt. Deciding what shoes to put on in the morning hurt. My observation in my years in Al-Anon is that we tend to come in either hurt or angry. Now, if you come in hurt, you're going to have to learn to deal with the anger. If you come in angry, you're going to have to learn to deal with the hurt. It's the same feeling. It's just whether I'm blowing it out on you or sucking it in on me. I think it's healthier to come in angry if you want to know the truth, but I hadn't been angry in years. Rageful, pinned the kids to the wall with the rage, but I hadn't been angry. And I had a sponsor, and I'd be talking to her on the phone, and she'd say, well, I'd tell her what was happening, and she'd say, how do you feel about it? And I'd go, it just hurt. And she'd say, well, I think there's something else. What else is there? And I couldn't come up with any more feelings. I just couldn't manufacture them. So she made me go get one of those little magnetic things with the faces on it, you know, the one that goes, if you're like this, you're disappointed, you know. If you do this, you're excited. And so I'd be talking to her on the phone. She'd say, how do you feel? And I'd say, I don't know. And she'd say, go to the refrigerator. Which is not a good habit to get into, girls. I'm just saying. Not a good habit. One day I had a new feeling. I was delighted. I knew she would be thrilled. And I am a people pleaser first and foremost. So I got on the phone, called her. I said, I have a new feeling. She said, oh, I'm so glad. She said, what is it? And I said, fear. She said, great. What are you afraid of? And I'm like, oh, you really need to know, like, exactly what you're afraid of, because I'm just to the place where I know I'm afraid. There wasn't any way I could nail it down. But she believed you should chase fears to their root cause. And she said what she always said to me. I said, well, I don't know what it is. And she said what she always said, which is, yes, you do, and I'll stay on the phone while you talk it out. Now, this sounds like it should have taken a few seconds. It took days. But this is the way it went. She said, what are you afraid of? And I said, I do know what I'm afraid of. I have fear of abandonment. And I have to realize this is the early 80s. Treatment centers are coming into their own, and we're getting treatment center jargon in our meetings, and the old-timers are developing new twitches over these, you know. The one that really made their eyes roll back in their head was if somebody said, well, I'm just going to deal with my inner child. And they'd be like, you know. But I'd heard about that fear of abandonment business, you know, and I said, that's what I have. I have fear of abandonment. She said, why? And I said, well, he's going to leave me. She said, really? How do you know that? I said, well, he said it. He said he's going to leave me. She said, when is he going? And I said, Friday. He says he's leaving on Friday. She said, honey, I'm going to tell you something. The best way to tell whether or not an alcoholic is leaving you is if he's gone. That was where I started to learn about turn off the sound and look at the picture. You know, she said, honey, the sound will confuse you. Just turn it down. Look at the picture. She said, try not to read their lips. You know, they say it and they mean it with all their heart and soul, and I know they mean it with all their heart and soul, so I believe them. Again, you know. She said, okay, well, let's just say he leaves. How will you feel if he leaves? So this is the way it went. I'm afraid he's going to leave me. And if he leaves me, what's going to happen is that next fear that I really thought was my worst fear is that I'm going to be alone. If he leaves me, I'm alone. And I cannot be alone. I am too scared to be by myself. Why are you scared to be by yourself? Because if I'm by myself, then I'm going to find out that this fear I have deep down is really true, and then that I'm not enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not young enough, old enough, rich enough, whatever. I need to be a better wife. I need to be a better mom. Whatever it is, I'm not enough. I am not enough. And you know, it's just been recently I'm beginning to discover that I'm not enough. But I'm not made to be enough. I'm made to need you. I'm a human. I need other humans. But I don't want to lean on you. I don't want to ask for your help. I don't want to, because I think that's a definite flaw, that I'm not enough. And if I'm not enough, I won't, if I don't have somebody with me, I won't be able to take care of myself. I can't. I'm not enough. And if I can't take care of myself, I'll die. And I had a fear underneath that said, and there is no God. It's a little kid fear. It's a little kid fear I carried all the way up into my 30s. And when somebody said, I love you to me, what I heard was, I won't leave you. I'll stay with you. So when this guy came along and he said, and I love you, game on. Now, I knew what I'd done wrong the first time, really. It was pretty obvious what I'd done wrong. And I had a little checklist in my head of what number 2 needed to be like. And this guy was perfectamundo. He was the right height, right age, right coloring, right family, right education, right job, right money, right everything. Except he did have this one teeny tiny little flaw. He didn't come home nights. But, you know, I'm thinking a couple of home-cooked meals and a little... You know, and I got him. Yeah, back in the day, that's how I marked my territory. Then came menopause. And now, who cares? This is just the part where I tell you youngsters, if you got it, use it, because it'll be gone. It's not lasting forever. After a while, it's just a dim memory back there. A lot of sweating and stuff. Whew. Seems like I could use the energy, but I don't know. Anyway. And so we got married, because I told you I always get my man. And he came home every night. So I'm pretty sure I'm doing it right, because it is all about me. I'm pretty sure you've noticed that. It's all about me. And I'm pretty sure I'm doing everything because he's coming home every night. Then the night came, he didn't come home. What I know today is I was dealing with a subset of alcoholic I'd never encountered before, and that is the bar drinking variety. The guy who is as addicted to the place and the people in it as he is to the substance alcohol. And he didn't come home. And I lay on the floor of the bathroom and I cried. And I was pretty sure he saw the 2 pounds I gained, and that's why he didn't love me anymore, and that's why he wasn't coming home. And then I said, oh, stupid me, what was I thinking? This morning he said, what's for dinner? And I said, roast beef. Oh, everybody knows pork chops are his favorite thing. And I made myself a promise that every time he asked me what was for dinner after that, I was always going to say pork chops. And then I could change it when I got him in the house and locked the door. And then I decided what I really needed to do was I needed to go sit on the sofa and wait. Now, if you are in training for Al-Anon, you must pass waiting 101. And the way you know that you're in waiting 101 is if when you are waiting, you can do nothing else. You can't talk on a phone, you can't read a book, you can't wash the clothes. The kids would come up and they'd go, Mom, and I'd go, shh. I'm waiting. And that's because while I'm waiting, I'm listening. And I'm listening for the sound of those tires. There are 44 bazillion other tires on the planet. Don't care. I can pick mine out in a parking lot. I know which ones are mine. And I have the same reaction to the sound of those tires as I've heard an alcoholic say a drink did for them. I would hear those tires and I'd go, it's okay now. It's all okay now. He's home. And it's all going to be okay. I'm going to kill him when he walks in the door. But at least he would die at home. And it was always preferable to be a widow than a divorcee. Oh, well, he came home. Something I found out in Al-Anon is 99 times out of 100, they come home. It might be that day or the next week or 3 years later, but they come home. And I met him at the door like a 3-year-old who's been crying all afternoon, and you've said, stop it. I was at that place, with the snot slinging everywhere and the big swollen eyes. And I think about that, and I think no wonder he drank. If that's waiting for me at home, I'll just have another over here. And I asked the second stupidest question we can ask. The stupidest, of course, is, have you been drinking? Second stupidest is, where have you been? And I'm pretty sure about you all, because you are my people, and I'm really glad we're sort of in a closed environment here. When I tell this part of my story, and we're in like a hotel, and the back doors are open, and I can see Earth people walking by out there. Honest to God, I have seen them. When I get to this part, there was a guy was walking by, and I got to this part, and he backed up, and he looked. I could see him pull out his phone and go, 911, 911, there's one loose, 911, 911. If I don't know what's happening, I make up stories. Then I live in my stories. My stories never have happy endings. Things are very sad in my story. And I'm always the one worst hurt in my story. In the long run. I might have to hurt some other people on the way, but then I'm the one that's the worst hurt. And I didn't know where he was, so I just made up a story. And honest to Pete, this is the way my story went. He was riding his car out in the country. I don't know why. He just was. And all of a sudden, for some reason, I don't know why, all of a sudden, the car blew up. And it blew his body into this ditch by the side of the road. And he's very badly hurt, but nobody can see him because he's down in the ditch and they're driving by on the road. And he's dying, but he's not quite dead yet. And with his dying breath, he's calling me. And he's saying, Ellen, Ellen, I love you. And now wild animals are coming and tearing off body parts and strewing them in the forest, and it'll be 7 years before we can identify the body. Well, when I got to Al-Anon, I called that love. I thought if you really love people, you would think those horrible, terrible things. You know, you just think it all the way through. They said, honey, that's not love, that's obsession. And the way you know it's obsession is if you think it through till somebody dies. That's obsession. You know what obsession is? It's all-out warfare on powerlessness. The more powerless I feel, the more obsessed I will get. I might get obsessed about the thing I'm powerless over, and I might pick out something else altogether because I'm an equal opportunity obsessor. I can get obsessed about my weight or yours, my children or yours. The economy is good these days. Politics is ripe. You could just really make up some fabulous stories there. What I know today when that squirrel cage thinking starts in my head is, I thank you, God, I have a 12-step recovery program and I know where one is, you know. It means there's some place in my life that I'm powerless, and I've either been unable or unwilling to look at it. And I'm willing. I am so willing these days because I know the magic of the steps. So when I asked him that night, where have you been, there was really only one acceptable answer: in a ditch bleeding. Anything else was going to hurt my feelings. And he said, Jesus, you have certainly worked yourself up into a state. You knew where I was. Well, the truth of the matter is I knew where he was. He only went 3 places. He was at work, at home, or in the trap room drinking. But I have the ability to hold opposing thoughts, and they never touch. And the 2 thoughts were, number 1, he loves me more than anything in the world. Now remember, my life hangs on this. Literally, my life hangs on this. And the other one is, he's in the trap room drinking. If this one is true, then this one cannot be true. And in my diseasiness, I would rather wish him dead than know the truth. That's what my disease does. And he said, sometimes I think you're crazier than your mother. The big one, Elizabeth. And he said, I don't know why I stay married to you. And I went, oh, I'm so sorry. I know. What's the matter with this picture? He's 3 hours late and drunk, and I'm standing at the door apologizing. Because I got it now. I got that first twitch coming on. I have an addiction to mind-altering men. It's not limited to men, I've discovered. Anyone can play with my brain. You don't even have to be present to win. I can do it in your name and blame it on you. Well, we rocked on like that with the highs and the lows, and went on for a while, and I got a call one day at the place where I work, and this lady said, oh my gosh, you are kidding me? Oh my gosh. This lady called in, she said, my husband is in a 12-step recovery program for alcoholism, and as part of his recovery, we're going to pay you all the money we owe you, but it's going to take us a while. And I, you know, in my diseasiness, I will lie and I will cheat and I will steal. And I lied to her. I said, oh, I understand. My husband drinks too much too. See, the primary alligator illusion is when you're okay, then I'll be okay. And I'll have to do everything in my power to make you okay. I'll go places I don't want to go with people I don't want to be with. I'll eat when I'm not hungry and won't eat when I am. I'll sit up all night in the hospital with your sick mother when I don't like hospitals, and I sure don't like your mother. It looks very loving and kind on the outside. It's the most self-centered behavior on the planet. I don't do it because I care about you. I do it because I need a reaction back from you to make me okay. And if you can't give me back that reaction, I will do my behavior harder. I will serve pork chops every day. I used to take off my clothes. I don't do that anymore. I think it would have the opposite reaction it used to have. And she was crying. And, you know, for an alligator, the alarms go off when people are crying. What I didn't know was I was talking to somebody who was new in Al-Anon, and we're deadly when we're new. We got a lot of answers. We don't know what the questions are, but we got a lot of answers. And they didn't tell her she shouldn't hunt me down, and she hunted me down, you know. It took her 6 months. She would call me, pick a day and call me. And it was inevitably the morning after one of those nights, you know. And I finally was sentenced to Al-Anon by a family doctor. And he said, I don't have your answers, and the only people who might have them are the Al-Anons. And she called the next day. And she escorted me to my first 6 meetings because she had the sense that I would not take myself if she didn't take me. They say that if you want a good recovery program, you should stick with the winners. The problem is they don't have name tags on in your home group. Hard to tell which are the winners and which are the whiners. You got a really wide range of recovery available to you at home. You can get some fabulous recovery, or you can get some survival skills, and that's about all that is, which isn't going to get you far, because you need tools, today's tools for today. Last week's tools aren't going to help you today. You got to have tools for today. You got to be enlarging and perfecting as you go along, or it's over, and I know it. It's one of the reasons I love weekends like this, and one of the reasons I've been to 3 family conferences in the last 3 weeks, because at these things, the winners have name tags on. You're the ones who want more than just the first miracle. You're the ones who are willing to step out there and see what else might be available here. And it's nothing short of life itself, a full, rich life you never dreamed possible. If I had gotten all I wanted when I got here, I would have sold myself and my family so short. 3 years later, in 1984, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I was too young to have breast cancer. I was 38. There's no history of it in my family, but I had breast cancer. They gave me a 60-40 chance of living another 5 years. The prognosis in the hospital wasn't good. Now, this is the place where the big book jumps into my life big time. I've hung my life on a couple of lines out of the big book. One of them is that part in Dr. Paul's story that says, nothing but nothing happens by mistake in God's world. But the other part is the last column of the 4-step inventory that says, and what was your part? What was your part? It was the first time I came to understand that I have a part in everything that's happened in my life. Maybe I didn't have a part in what caused it. Maybe I didn't. Maybe it was something that happened when I was a little kid, and I really am an innocent here. But the fact of the matter is, if I'm still carrying that resentment down through the years, that's my part. And the only way I'm going to get free, the only way that's going to get healed, is if I deal with my part. Boy, that was such fabulous information, such empowering information to know. Because if I have to wait for you to get okay, I'm screwed. But if it's up to me, I got a chance. I got a chance. So I got in a step study, and I did the steps on when the tumor was growing, because I wanted to know about the cancer. I wanted to know what my part was in the cancer. And I don't think I gave myself cancer. I don't think my husband gave me cancer. What I do believe, there were studies back then that said that cancer was a stress-related disease. Cancer is prevalent in alcoholic homes. I don't know anything more stressful than loving and living with an alcoholic. If there is, I don't want to know about it. I can't do it. Whatever it is, I can't do it. And what I realized in the course of that step study was that living in active alcoholism, I break out in malignancies. And you had treated me for a number of years by then. You kept saying that my life had value. That was what the second step said to me. Restore, restore. Restore is something you do to something of value. It doesn't say you beat it back into shape or make it look like something it never looked before. You restore it. And I had enough of my own life that I wanted to keep it. And so for the first time I meant it, for the umpteenth time I said it, if you can't stay sober, you can't stay here. And he couldn't stay sober. And he left. He left between chemo and radiation. And you know what? Cancer is not really a team sport. He did the best he could do with that, and I don't fault him for one bit. If it hadn't been for AA and Al-Anon, I'd be dead. I really would be, because you were the ones who carried me through that, carried me and my kids through that. If you ask him why I left, he would tell you it was that crazy daughter of mine that anyone who had to live with that little woman would drink too. She didn't make me want to drink. She just made me want to kill her. She came home one Saturday morning, should have been home Friday night. You see the pattern in my life? I get alcoholics who don't come home nights. If I had the alcoholic who came home and sat in the recliner and passed out, I'd probably be dead and you'd have another speaker today. But that's not what I got. I had the ones who don't come home nights. Now, this was long before cell phones. Al-Anon had told me that bad news is perfectly capable of making the entire journey to me. I did not have to go out and hunt it up. So I hadn't gone around calling to find out why she wasn't home. Al-Anon says, you know what, you better get a good night's sleep because you may need it tomorrow. Take care of yourself. So I did my best job of getting a good night's sleep, and sure enough, the next morning she walked in the back door. I see it like it was yesterday. And I'm in the kitchen, and she's looking at me, and she goes, Mom, it was terrible. We were driving down the highway. We were minding our own business, really, Mom, we were. And this car came from nowhere, and it tried to shove us off the road, and it was so scary, Mom. And the police came, and they said it wasn't our fault or anything, Mom, but it was so scary. And I'm like, oh, my God, is everybody okay? She goes, yeah, we're all pretty good. I'm just kind of tired. Think I'll go to my room. And I'm in the living room with because that's what I do. Bring all me extra feelings right over here, and I'll handle them. So the school called about 2 years later, and they said, there's something the matter with your daughter. Duh. And they said, we're going to send her for an evaluation. Really? 2 days later, the guy from the treatment center calls, and he says, Ms. Davis, I hate to tell you this, but we do believe your daughter's alcoholic. And I'm like, yes! And he said, we've not had a lot of moms react like that. And I'm like, yes, she's alcoholic. I thought she was crazy. That's an Al-Anon symptom. No sign she'll ever get any help for that, but alcoholism, yes. And she's 17, I can make her do stuff. So, there are Al-Anon rules and there are mom rules. And the mom rules are you got to do everything you can think of. You just got to. And I took her to a place that would force feed the steps into her because I didn't know anything else that might work. And she stayed sober about 1.5 years. I am so grateful that AA does what it does for the reason it does and not for some kind of success rate because you'd stop doing it after a while. 80% of the young people who come in have to go back out because they're not done, And she wasn't done. She stayed sober about 1.5 years, and then she was back out there again. She came back in, about 2 years later, she came back in January 29th of 1990. I didn't have anything to do with that. The best thing I ever did for that child was get a program and get a life and get out of her way and let her do what she needed to do. The alcoholics made all the difference in the world. You didn't treat her like because she was 19, that somehow she hadn't suffered long enough. Apparently any amount of suffering will do. And you didn't treat her like because she did drugs that somehow negated her alcoholism. My daughter got sober twice before it was ever legal for her to drink once. She's an alcoholic. She just celebrated 21 years. 21? Yeah, 22 years in AA. And she's 43 years old. She spent more than half of her life in AA. She's still very alcoholic. In that 1.5 years, she was sober. She started hanging out in slippery places with slippery people, and I thought if she drank, I'd die, because that's the way it felt still. If you drink, I'm going to break out in a malignancy. And so for the umpteenth time I said it, for the first time I meant it, if you can't go by the rules of the house, you can't stay here. My sponsor had already talked to me about this God I was discovering in Al-Anon. And I have a win-win God. I don't have a God that makes one person suffer so another person can get theirs. I have a God that makes it win-win on both sides, always. And I don't know what's good for you. I don't know what's coming down the road for you. I don't know what you're being prepared for. But we are all being prepared for whatever is coming next in our life. I've never gotten to one of those next places that I hadn't somehow been prepared to be here. Somehow, some way. And so what I have to do is I have to make the best decision. I have to do what I think is best for me, knowing that it'll be best for them. Whether they believe it or want it or understand, I have to do what's best for me. Today's sanity for me is doing the best thing I can think of and expecting the best results. So I didn't want to kick my daughter out. Hear me, I did not want to kick my daughter out. I adore my daughter. I wanted her healthy, happy, home and whole, and she couldn't do any of that. And so she was going to have to leave. And I set up the day for her to leave to be the day I was going to Crested Butte be with 600 of my closest friends, because I was going to need intensive care if I had to put my daughter out. And that morning she threw herself across my bed and said, "You're going to be a grandma." Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. She thought it was a cute way to tell me. I thought she was making me the responsible party one more time. And I went through a couple of hours of saying things that I'm so glad I can't remember. But after a couple of hours, I finally picked up the phone and called my sponsor and turned myself in. And she said, honey, do you want her to stay? I said, I don't want her to stay, and I feel terrible. Shouldn't a mother, I've got an 18-year-old pregnant girl here. Shouldn't I want to take care of her? She said, honey, there are only so many bad feelings in every interaction. Those are hers. Let her have them. She said, if you don't want her to stay, I'll stay on the phone while you tell her. And I instantly quit hurting. The pain, I get so confused. I think the pain is about letting go. No, the pain is in the resistance. It's always in the resistance. The freedom is in the letting go. And it was time to let go of her. For her and for me, it was time to let go of her. And we went through a difficult fall. She went around telling people what a horrible... She even went back to her treatment center to tell her, see, I was right, she's a bad mom. I'm pregnant and she won't let me come live with her. Luckily, they knew her. I went to a conference my friend Buddy Ross was taping, and I was serious as a stroke. I said, Buddy, she's pregnant at me now. Because it is all about me. I know you know it's all about me. And God loved Buddy Russ. Buddy Russ said, I know exactly what you're talking about, honey. He said, but you know what? Our son's girlfriend had a baby out of wedlock, and that child has been the light of our lives. Never occurred to me I might like it. It was such an old idea that babies don't come unless these certain things happen. Al-Anon has allowed me to change my mind and get some new ideas. I think that maybe the sanity offered us in step 2 may be nothing short of paradise. But the reason we don't get paradise is, yeah, but. Not today, God. Not my kid, God. Not like this, God. I'm telling God how to run the universe. My journey in Al-Anon has been from yeah, but to thank you. Thank you, God, for all of it exactly as it is. I wouldn't change a thing. And that's acceptance. Tolerance is a whole nother thing. It's not pretty, and it don't feel good. It's just tolerance. I work toward acceptance is what I work toward. And God was offering me a baby. I love babies. And I decided to say thank you for the baby. A couple of months later, my daughter called. She said, Mom, I know you're knitting a blue blanket. You're going to have to knit a little faster. Had a sonogram today. It's twin boys. You know how those alcoholics are. If one's good, let's have another. You know, what I know today is if she just had one baby, you'd have another speaker. And she had 2 babies. And that second one, whew, what an order. I can't go through with it. I knew I'd have more peace of mind knowing where she was and where she wasn't. It was all about my peace of mind. I said, come live with me to get the hang of twins. Now, how I thought a brand new 19-year-old was going to get the hang of twins when she didn't even like dolls, I don't know. But wasn't mine to decide. So she came back to stay with me, and when they were 5 weeks old, she said, Mom, I'm not going to keep them, and you can have them. Now, if you've never been loved by an Al-Anon, you do not know what you're missing. We love at a cellular level. We love you from somewhere below your feet to somewhere above your head, and lots of times where you walk is hallowed ground. I had fallen in love with heartbeats in the hospital, and I loved those babies. And my sponsor, I said, I don't know what to do. My sponsor says, you know what to do. God wants for you what you want for you in your heart of hearts. But I'm so afraid to make a decision. What if I decide something and next week something better comes and I'm stuck? Because I picked that other thing last week. I hate that when that happens. So I just don't make any decisions and let the alcoholics do it and blame them all on them. She said, sweetie, you're confused one more time. She said, your job is walking in the direction of your dreams. Where you get is God's deal. And God's promise to you is this or something better. God isn't a terrorist waiting around the corner to test your patience. God really wants you to be happy, joyous, and free. He really wants you to have the best life you can have. So, my daughter signed the babies over, gave me power of attorney, and I went to adoption agencies because I don't want to be their mom. I'm through raising kids, and they are the children of 2 addicts, and I don't like the odds. But I sure wanted to be their grandma. So I went to adoption agencies, and I said, I'm looking for a family that wants 2 babies and a grandmother. She said, you can't get it if you don't ask, you know. I'm walking in the direction of my dreams. We thought it would take weeks. It took months. There were some physical issues with the baby, with the little twin. And I wanted these people to know what they were getting. I didn't want somebody to... So I had a bunch of testing done on him. And then we found the family, and they said they didn't care that there were 2 babies, didn't care that they were 5 months old already, didn't care that the family wanted to stay involved. They said, if it's God's will. And when my daughter heard that, she said, I picked them. I said, I picked them. They let me pick the surrender date. Oh, they named it surrender date. Hardest day of my life, I promise you. And I picked it to be the day I was going to Crested Butte to be with 600 of my closest friends, because I was going to have intensive care. I was going to have your comfort 24/7. And we went to Lutheran services and handed our babies over to their new parents. Well, as my friend Leslie knows, that was a long time ago. Those precious, darling babies are 24 years old now. And up until they got in about their second year in high school, we always had a meal with them every month. Their parents made sure that we had a meal with them every month. They came to my house for Christmas. They came to my house for Easter. They would come in the summer and spend time with me in the summer, and I was always their grandma, always. But these people don't believe in alcoholism. And my daughter thought that if these people who lived out in the country adopted these babies and they didn't have the pressure of the big city, maybe they wouldn't turn out to be alcoholic. That's a twitchy thing right there. As it turns out, the boys had their first drink of alcohol graduation night. Now, my daughter started drinking and using in the 8th grade, but they didn't have their first drink of beer until graduation night. And then the next 3 years, the older twin had 5 alcohol-related offenses. He's a convicted felon. A couple of his alcohol-related offenses were given to him by the Segway cops for walking drunk. Oh, so embarrassing. My daughter took him to an AA meeting. He was happy to go. Really nice people. Has no need for them. He doesn't see alcohol as a problem. Okay, fine. Apparently his brother is now working off his last DUI. This one, the first one with him, is the last time we saw him had one of those anklets on, where he was going to prove to the judge that he wasn't drinking anymore because there wasn't going to be any alcohol in his system. But he had this new money-making scheme that he could hardly wait to share with his grandfather and me, which was he was going to make 100 Jell-O shots in his apartment and sell them, go door to door and sell them in the apartment. He thought he could make a fortune. Good idea. You know, here's the thing. My daughter tried so hard, she did everything she could think of for those boys not to turn alcoholic. She didn't tell them she was alcoholic. They knew nothing about that until they were 19 years old. Those boys moved to Dallas, Texas, instantly. As soon as they graduated from high school, they moved to Dallas, Texas. They moved to the exact area. Dallas is a big place. They moved to the exact area where my daughter drank. One of them works in the same bar she used to work in. They're alcoholic. You cannot change that. And you know what? I don't want to. I hope to God they survive. I hope they do. But it is a spiritual search, and I know that. And I get to be what I want to be, which is the loving grandma who loves them no matter what. I texted them both the other day just to see. I hadn't heard from them in a while, just to see how they were. And one of them's, the older one, I'm in New York City. Oh, God only knows what he's selling in New York City, but okay. And the younger one said, I'm good, Grandma, I'm good. I was in a motorcycle wreck, and I broke both wrists and fractured my shoulder, but I'm good. Fine. Good to hear from you. Love you. Bye. When the boys left, I did an inventory and discovered since I was 12, I've been chasing after, going with, waiting for, engaged to, married to, divorced from somebody. But there's always been somebody. I walk with this great big hole beside me, and I throw people in here to try to make me enough. I'd like to tell you how special they are, but I don't remember most of their names. And I decided if I was ever going to figure out who I was, I'm going to have to be single. I'm going to have to not date. And it isn't like I had to go out to the front door and say, sorry, boys, I've sworn off. There was no one there. God made it real easy. And if you're not going to hang out with boys, it leaves you one other choice. girls. They're fine. I mean, I'm a girl and all that, but I'm just not a girly girl. I don't do things like girls do it. This whole idea of, oh, I know what let's do Saturday. Let's go shop all day long. I shop like a man. If you don't know what you want, don't go in there. If you know what you want, go get it and get out. And let's get home. I got stuff to do. Pretty sure there's stuff on TV. But I had to hang out with the girls. So I had to tell the girls, okay, girls, I got this big car. I'm going to the conference this weekend. If you need 12 pairs of shoes for one weekend conference, I can do the whole thing in my Nikes, but I got room for your shoes. And number one, we'll stop when you have to go to the bathroom. Girls are so weird, you know. You ride down the road and they go, oh, look, there's a bathroom. Do I have to? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Pull in, pull in, pull in. You know, a minute ago, they're just fine. Now there's this huge emergency, you know. I think I could make it from Dallas to Kansas if I had to, but no, not the girls. And I said, my biggest concession was, I said, okay, every time we pass a Walmart, we'll go in. Walmart way overwhelms me. Way too much stuff. I can't deal with all of that stuff. But I was healed in the Walmart in Dalhart, Texas, amid the smell of calf slaughter, which is all that's up there. I was healed on aisle 12. We were dealing with $5 bathing suits. We got to laughing over those $5 bathing suits. I could not believe you would actually put a $5 bathing suit on your body and get it wet. I thought it would dissolve on you like communion wafer, you know. We laughed. I thought they were going to have to call for cleanup on aisle 12. And you know what? I made an amazing discovery. I made an amazing discovery in my time. I always wanted God to speak to me in thunder and lightning because you know that drama is my life. And God says, honey, I got to speak to you in a language you understand best. And the language you understand best is another woman. And that's the truth. That's the language I understand best. And you know what the big gift was out of that? I discovered I'm enough for me. Nobody has to be added to make me okay. I'm enough. I need help lots, and I know who to ask for help, and most of the time I'm going to ask a woman. So then this other guy asked me out. No, yes. And he wasn't in the program, but I'm not dealing with, you know, I'd known him a long time. He was the funniest man alive. We were not allowed to sit next to each other. He was on the board of the place where I worked, and I was supposed to be working at the board meetings. But I would find a way to sit next to him. Because he'd just go and do one of his sideways things to me during the meeting, and I'd be all over the thing, you know. My boss finally had to say, you cannot sit next to him anymore. That's him. That's him over there. This November, we will have been married for 20 years. If you add all of my marriages together, I'm just a little past you. People said, you know, we dated for 3 years, and thank you, darling. We dated for 3 years, and he was just a practice relationship. I had no intention of being involved here. But I figured I needed to, my sponsor kept saying, just practice. He can just practice on him. It's okay. They're all practice relationships, Ellen. There aren't any of them that, you know, they're all just training, so use him. And it was a long deal, and of course I don't have time to tell you, but so we finally got married, and everybody said, oh, look, you got a normal guy. You know what a normal guy is? He's somebody whose story you haven't heard yet. He's got an issue. I need a guy with an issue. I need a guy with something I can pick on in my time of need, you know, so it isn't all about me all the time. So he had to hang out with you because you're my people, and he thought you were real funny and kind of a little too emotional for him, actually, but really funny people. And 1994 was a very difficult, we got married in 92. 94 was a difficult year. And by October, I was stone nuts. My sponsor said, you're going to do a written first step at dinner tonight, and you're going to tell me the things you're really mad about. And then you can just write down the things that make you angry. And I did that writing where you go through the page, you know, so mad. First thing I told her was, it was his snoring. Love him, he's going to wake up dead, okay? I got to have my sleep. Second thing I turned over was his drinking. Now, he wasn't a bad drunk. He came home when he said he'd be home. He was always where he said he was going to be. But he'd walk home, he'd come home and I'd open the door and I'd go, hello. And if I smelled alcohol, my night went to hell in a handbasket. I needed to know that he could drink and I wouldn't die. And an hour later, he walked up to the podium, said he was an alcoholic, and he hadn't had a drink since then. He's 17 years, is that right? This October? 18, this October, 18 years. Best thing, I had nothing, really. The best thing I ever did for him was get a program and get out of his life and, let him do what he needed to do. Who knew that was going to happen? I want to tell you as quickly as I can because the time is almost up. I've gotten the chance, in the last 15 years, I got the chance. My son had 2 daughters and my daughter had 2 sons, and they had them within 3 years. And because of Clint Hodges mostly, I got to quit the job that I was ready to leave and stay home and take care of my grandbabies, one at a time, as they came, one at a time, till I had all 4 babies. And it was the best job any human ever had. You could go to work in your pajamas. They paid me to sleep with my clients. You could feed them chocolate all day and send them home. It's great, and we still have our, this summer is the first time the boys who are 14 and 12 have not been with us almost every day, but the girls, 15 and 13, are still with us every day this summer. This was their 9th summer at Crested Butte Mountain Conference with 600 of my closest friends. I cannot keep alcoholism from affecting those children. Chances are really good that that's going to happen. But I want so much to make AA and Al-Anon a safe place for them. So when it happens, they'll know where to go. They'll know what it sounds like here. They'll know what the words are, and they'll know they're welcome. I don't know how to thank you for that. I used to think that when I died and went to heaven, God was going to say, pull out the VCR and tape of her life and let me see how her husband and her children turned out. And if they turned out to be fine, upstanding members of the community, she's earned her way into heaven and she can come in. I'm so grateful. You let me find another God. I don't know what's going to happen when I leave here, but I've made up a story. My sponsor says I can have this story. I think when my body's tired of doing whatever it is my body's doing here, and that part of me that's always been God's goes to where God is. When I get there, God's going to go, oh, Ellen, there you are. And he's going to say, precious, you know what? Heaven's heaven when you're not here, but it's just not perfect without you. And then he's going to say, honey, I've been running a little experiment down there. Nothing you could pass or fail. It was just a little experiment. I know you've been paying close attention, sometime taking notes. So I'd like your opinion on how it's going. Maybe in your heaven God will want your opinion, but in mine, he wants my opinion. First thing he's going to say is, did you have a good time? I didn't do a single thing to torment you. Everything I did was my best attempt to make you happy, joyous, and free, living a human life. And because of you, I'm going to be able to say, oh, yes, God, I had a great time at your party. Thanks for asking me. And the second thing he's going to say is, were you Ellen? You were the only one like that I made. I had things for you to do that I couldn't do because my hands are too big and my voice is too loud. And that scared me because I'd spent so much of my life trying to be what I thought other people wanted me to be that I didn't know if I'd been me. I do a nighttime inventory every night, and it's changed through the years. And for a couple of years, I wrote down every night, today, Ellen, and I wrote down what I knew that day had been mine to do or mine to say or a place that I knew was mine to be that day. And after a couple of years, I look back at that, and 95% of that is what you would have called service work. Was where I knew I was where God would have me be. This is where God wanted me to be today. Somebody else could have been here and you could have been done 10, 15 minutes ago, but that's not what happened to us. And the last thing he's going to say is, precious girl, did you ever get the joke? And I got the joke the year of cancer. I got the joke standing at the back door of my house with a 60-40 chance of living another 5 years with a hot pink neon orange daughter who was living over the edge of the planet someplace because she started drinking and using the year I had cancer. And a beige and navy blue son who was disappearing more and more during the day, sleeping during the day and being awake at night, and a husband who said what's for dinner and then might not come home for 3 weeks. I was getting ready. I was in the middle of chemo, my people. I want you to hear this. I had lost all the hair on my body. Okay, I'm not going to get graphic, but you know what I'm saying. All the hair on my body. Except for the gray hair, because God has a sense of humor. Wasn't much then, but there were some, and it kind of blew around like fried nerve endings. And I'd wear a little hat so I wouldn't upset you with my nerve endings. And I got ready to go out the door, and I looked down and realized I was going to have to go back and shave my legs. I had lost all the hair except on my legs. I lay on the floor and I laughed and I laughed and I laughed. And I finally understood one day at a time. You know, I've lived, the fact of the matter is I've lived so much of my life afraid I'm not going to get what I think I have to be okay, or that I'm going to lose something I think I need to hold on to so that I'll be okay, that I almost missed the truth, which is right this moment, right now. May you find him here. I got everything I need, and I always do. I might not have had it 2 seconds ago, but I have it now. I almost missed my life, except for you. There's a guy in our group that says the glass isn't half full or half empty, the glass is just too damn big. Bill Cosby says the glass is either half full or half empty, depending on whether you're drinking or pouring. The magic of what we do here is somehow when I stand up here and pour, when I sit down, I'm the one whose cup overflows. And I thank you.